The Jewish people over the centuries have been called the people of the book, a charming phrase which says something generally about our people's commitments and behaviors. We study the book. We also read a lot of other books. The phrase people of the book has also come to describe something much deeper about who we are, who we have become as a people, those commitments. And that's that we have become a people of words. Think back to before March of 2020, those days when we would have oneg following Shabbat service, or in the summer, we would have wine and welcome. Any kind of event where there's eating, of course, brings on a lot of talking. How many times did you say something like, "I'm only staying for 10 minutes"? Or, "I'm gonna grab a cookie, say Shabbat Shalom, and then I'm hitting the road"? Well, and then after you say these things, inevitably, you start schmoozing, kibitzing a little, and long story short, more than 10 minutes have passed. I actually remember growing up on drives to temple for Shabbat when I was little, dictating to my mother how long she could stay at oneg for. I would make her promise that we would only schmooze for 5 minutes and then we were leaving. Well, I'm sure most of you can imagine what it's like to have a child dictating something to you. It never goes as planned. Schmoozing is not a bad thing. When an oneg is going strong long after the conclusion of services, it's a sign of comfort. It's a sign of strong community. The oneg example enhances our understanding of us being the people of the book, because the foundational element to the books that we hold so dear are the words on the pages or the words in the scroll. We are nothing without our words. This Shabbat evening, we read the first portion of the 5th and final book of our yearly cycle of Torah readings. It begins, "Ele hadivarim, these are the words, asher diber Moshe, that Moses spoke el kol Yisrael, to all of Israel." This book, like the others, is named for the first significant word, divarim, words. Deuteronomy is retelling the story of the entire Jewish people. It's the second account of many notable stories and a reminder of some of our most important laws. But we learn more from considering the book's Hebrew name, divarim, or words. And these words aren't just God's words that we are reading. This is a retelling. This is Moses' account of not only his life, what he witnessed, but his understanding of all of the most significant events of our history. Some scholars describe the series of speeches that make up the book of Deuteronomy as Moses' final sermons to the Jewish people. These chapters are filled with Moses' final words, and these serve as his lasting legacy. Through this final act of speaking to the people in Devarim, Moses solidifies his place as Moshe Rabbeinu, our great and noble teacher. This Moses that we encounter here in Deuteronomy is immensely different, however, from the Moses throughout much of Torah. Moses, over the next few weeks, projects confidence and authority. He speaks for the majority of the 34 chapters in the book. But if we would have asked Moses back in Egypt if he could lecture for that long, I bet he would have laughed in all of our faces. In Exodus, when God first commissions Moses to be his prophet, we encounter a verse which is poignantly linked to the opening of Deuteronomy. Moses said in response to God's call, "O Lord, I have never been a man of words, ish devarim. Neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant, I am slow of speech and tongue." In these early days of Moses' life and career, his words are an unimaginable obstacle for himself. He feels vulnerable and out of place just at the mere thought of leading the people. Because he must do so, he must lead this people through his speech. We all can connect to Moses' story because at some point in our lives, we have all felt vulnerable or like we don't have the skills necessary to succeed. Well-known professor and lecturer on leadership, Brené Brown, teaches us about what it means to be vulnerable. She says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up, even when you have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. Moses tries to deny God by articulating his own weaknesses. I am not a man of words. But Moses instead answers the call and he shows up. He showed up for the slaves who desperately needed a leader. And he showed up time and time again across the desert for an unruly and stiff-necked people. And here, tonight, in the final month of Moses' life, Moses shows up yet again. Words have become Moses' tool, and he wields them with power and authority he never thought he would have. The speeches in Deuteronomy are not God's words in Moses' mouth. These speeches are Moses overcoming his challenges, looking his fear in the face and having courage. The book of Deuteronomy is a testament to a people who has faced so much. But more so, the final book of Torah reminds us every year we read it what the world can look like if we don't run from our weaknesses, but rather we're aware of them, show up despite them, and always do the holy and sacred work of improving ourselves. Shabbat Shalom.